B, but C, it says the burdens and benefits of the use of resources and public borrowing shall be shared equitably between present and future generations, Mr. Speaker. So even if it means the borrowing, we must be considerate of the posterity. We must be considerate of what is happening as had been envisaged in one of the principles, Mr. Speaker, of sustainable public debt or public borrowing by the government, Mr. Speaker, because we must ensure that the future generations have an inheritance, not only in public debt, Mr. Speaker, but in terms of development. And I think most of this development that has been done, for example, by Kibaki administration, Thika Superhighway, the people who borrowed them might not appreciate then when they were borrowing to ensure that that bypass, Mr. Speaker, or that road being expanded, Thika Superhighway, they might not have appreciated. But now, many years down the line, when Nairobi has expanded, and we have a huge population in Nairobi and use of that road, Mr. Speaker, now we are now valuing, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, the anchoring of debt in percentage is very critical because this is the best international best practice. So this amendment, Mr. Speaker, is a straightforward amendment. What we are amending under Public Finance Management Act of 2023 is very straight because we are just doing what we call best practices in terms of ensuring that we get our debt anchored in percentage, Mr. Speaker. And this will allow government to operate. You remember, Mr. Speaker, in unprecedented times during COVID, and you wanted to raise public debt, Mr. Speaker, you could imagine the challenges that came with it. In terms of raising quorum, in terms of getting senators to vote, there was the issue of non-physical contact, Mr. Speaker, social distancing. And I think in unforeseeable challenges like COVID, I'm using that as an example, Mr. Speaker, it will be very important. I have seen on many occasions, and now that the public debt of this country is 10 trillion, Mr. Speaker, it must be what we call discipline in terms of management of public resources. Even as we anchor, Mr. Speaker, into public debt, the commitment of government and President William Ruto has been to ensure at all points, Mr. Speaker, sir, fight against corruption becomes at the center. Because we don't have to borrow, Mr. Speaker, huge chunks of money, put the country in a public debt, where we were nearing economic crisis, and allow corrupt individuals within and without government, Mr. Speaker, to blunder or mismanagement, Mr. Speaker, on wastage of public funds, yet that money has been borrowed, Mr. Speaker. Even on the individual level, Mr. Speaker, you have never seen individuals where they borrow money to go and kupiga sherehe, Mr. Speaker, or take chai and mandazi. Everybody who borrows a loan from the bank would want to account for each and every single coin. Mr. Speaker, if we are translating the same commitment, the way we translate to taking our personal loans and mortgages, Mr. Speaker, this country would have gone. So I agree with the President that the commitment against the fight of corruption be a top priority, not only national government and county governments. We have heard about the pending bills in Vihiga County, for example, where Senator Outsourcing has brought to the attention of the House. Mr. Speaker, we want to loud government, and you have had a former governor confess on the floor of the House that during their tenure since the inception of devolution, under Article 219 of the Constitution 2010, Mr. Speaker, sir, money has not been dispensed, has not been given out, Mr. Speaker, at an opportune or on time. Mr. Speaker, for example,